So it's a brand new day, and hopefully the paint should have dried by now down here. So today's plan is we want to sand this nicely again and paint the whole amount, because we've painted a bit on one side and a bit on the other side and nothing in the middle. But we've got some structures to take off. We have the hatches, 2 of them. We really need to remove these so that we can sand this properly and get some paint underneath. So I bought myself a little machine. This one isn't from Temu. This is an Amazon special. So I've bought one of these to see if we can use that to sand a little bit easier. So the sanding discs on that are 225 mils rather than the 115 or 125 mils that we've got on our normal hand sanders. So hopefully we'll cover area a lot quicker, and it might be a bit easier on the back too. Okay, so here's the hatch. I'm not quite sure how it all attaches first. We've got these slotted screws, which are the bane of my life. I don't know whether those screws are captured by any nuts underneath, because they're hidden by this framing, or whether they just screw out of the steel. So I'm going to give them a go. This is the ideal tool, but it stopped working. I was thinking about taking it home and servicing it. The barrels got stuck and I might be able to fix it. It was only cheap from Amazon. I did think about buying a better quality one. So I'm hoping that they'll come out either with a screwdriver or with the usual impact driver and these impactor bits. Let's have a look. No, that doesn't bode well. Let's try the normal impactor that skids all over the place. Okay, that one got that one. And they come out. So that looks encouraging. So far we've got a lot to go. That's one off. Let's do the other.
Oh, that was easy. how rotten it's got.
Now we've got the hatches out, it's time to get cleaned up and sanded.
In my blue striped car, she's riding shotgun and she looks like a star. Yeah, she's got the style that makes you think she's made out of gold. She says she likes it better when we go off-road. Yeah, I'm gonna make it worth your while. I'm gonna make it worth your time. I'm gonna make it worth your while.
It's paint your rusty old tub time.
When she's with me, we're like superstars. Windows roll down, radio on. I think we could go far. We don't need money, we can skip that part. All I want is her to be with me. She's got a ticket to my heart. The sky is blue, I got the sun in my eyes. It can't get better than when she makes that smile. Yeah, she's got that style that makes you think she's made out of gold. She's turning up the volume on the radio. Yeah, I'm gonna make it worth your while. I'm gonna make it worth your time. I'm gonna make it worth your while. When she's with me, we're like superstars. Windows roll down, radio on. I think we could go far. We don't need money.
Right, so that's kind of the second coat of paint. Second in some areas, it's mainly the first coat of paint. I'm struggling a little bit with the rollers. I can't find a roller that doesn't decide to leave half of itself on the paint when I've painted with it. The foam rollers were a waste of time. The mohair rollers were a waste of time. And I've just found another roller, which is kind of a cloth material, and that's even worse. It's leaving bits all over. I've picked a lot of the bits out. You might be able to see in the middle, there's some bits left behind, and I can't reach that now without climbing over the paint. So we'll just have to pick those out when it's dry. We'll sand those out. There's going to be a couple more coats of paint going over the top, but I need to find a better roller. If you've got any suggestions, leave them in the comments down below, but these ones, they're just not cutting the mustard. So I've got one more coat to put on that front deck before we put the hatches back in. And Rachel's going to get on with sanding that again, just to key it all up and paint it. In the meanwhile, I've got to move the whole welding operation down into the aft cabin because we're going to start welding on that transom properly. So one of the first things I've got to do down in this aft cabin now, because I'm going to start working in here, is sort out the lighting. There's already lighting up here, except one of the lights has stopped working and it's kind of disconnected. But everything plugs in at the moment in Heath House. That enabled me to go in there and just plug everything in, and the lights came on everywhere. Now, there's no point in switching the lights on from Heath House. We need to be able to come in here and switch the lights on, which are on a plug. So I'm going to unplug it from down there and try and find somewhere up here to plug it in. I'm in the back cabin and I've got a few little dressing up jobs to do. The first one is one of these stiffeners that I've put in, I've decided to remove. It's being cut anyway to allow the stern to go in, but it doesn't support much. If you look, this stiffener here only goes to the transom, and it's not really supporting anything because this is inside. We've got welds on the outside of here, and we're going to be putting a weld on the inside, so it'll be held firm by there. This is just going to be providing a shelf, so it doesn't need a great deal of strength. So I'm going to remove that because there's a little bit of bow in this. I think it's pushed it up a little bit, and I just think it's completely superfluous, so I'm going to remove it. So what we're going to do next is we're going to lay a bead on the inside. It's been welded on the outside. You can see the penetration, it's come through. We're going to put a nice bead on here to make sure that we've got double strength, outside and inside. Before I weld it though, we need to clean it up, don't we? Okay, so it's time to start doing the welding, and I'm going to do what I did when we did the deck, and that's do short stitches just to keep the plate cool, to stop it from warping. Let's see how we go. I'm kind of doing that all the time now because I've got comfortable doing it and it seems to work for me. Time for the third and final coat of epoxy primer on this front roof. So on the front, we've got two hatches that we've taken out. The paint's almost dry there now, and I need to put the hatches back in, obviously to make it watertight. The problem is I've only got epoxy primer on there. We've put 3 coats on, and I might be tempted to put another coat on a little bit later, but we're going to need some more coats on. We're going to need a base coat and a top coat. And what I don't want to do is start Sikaflexing in these hatches to then have to scrape it all off and sand it off and start damaging the paint that we've already put on there. So I need to make a temporary water seal. So I'm going to make a gasket, and I'm going to make the gasket out of cardboard that I'm going to impregnate with oil. So first of all though, look at the state of these. I've got to clean off these hatch kind of base plates.
Might be going crazy, I don't know what to do. My heart is screaming for you, babe. And what I'm trying to say is that you make the sky look blue, even when it is gray, babe. Every time I'm feeling down, you can make it go away. Your light is shining bright on me, got no reason to be afraid. You're glowing in the dark. You're glowing in the dark, glowing in the dark. I feel it in my heart. You're glowing in the dark, glowing in the dark. Yeah, you're glowing in the dark. You can make it go away. Glowing in the dark. You can make it go.
So I've just cleaned this up, and these are the catches. These are what the catches latch onto. They're made out of plastic. That one's fine. That one's broken. I had a similar problem with the other hatch. The hatch that we took out from this top deck, the one that was broken, both of those catches were broken. And I looked up a spare part, and there was one place in Europe that sold these, and they were £80 each. And I needed 2, that was 160. 3, that's £240, just in catches. So I'm wondering whether I can make something. 3D printing's not going to be good enough because it won't be strong enough. It's a security catch, and whatever I 3D print that out of just wouldn't be strong enough. So I'm wondering if I can make one out of metal. That's 2 cleaned up, ready to fit new gaskets, but first I need to make a new catch. So I'm in my civvies today, thinking about doing something a little bit different for today. Next week I'm away for the whole week working. I've got to earn some money for this rusty old tub. So I'm going to spend this weekend doing bits and pieces, so we've got plenty of content for you for a video on Friday, even though I'll be away at the time when it's released. What I'm going to do today, interesting, is I'm going to make one of these catches, and I've had a few different thoughts about how I'm going to do it, can you see? But first of all, I need to sketch this up, get it into CAD, and have a think about exactly what material I'm going to make it out of. Despite that beautiful sunshine out there, this is a bit of an indoor job. The first thing I want to do is I want to measure the thickness of this part, because I need to make sure I've got the right stock for a start. That might determine the material that we use to make it out of. I'm just going to measure this. So the thickness is 16 mils. 16 millimeters, more or less. Which kind of scuppers me at the moment, because the thickest stock I've got in aluminium is 10 millimeters. To be honest with you, I've got Delrin as well in 10 millimeters. That's going to be a little bit too thin. So I'm going to have to order some anyway. So if I'm going to order some, we'll order aluminium, because I think that'll be stronger. Right, let's get on with doing the rest of the measurements and getting it into CAD. Now what we need next is this radius. And with radiuses, we can calculate a radius by taking a chord line and working out the height, and there's a formula. So I'll just try and figure out what this radius is. 25 millimeters. Lock that. That's there. So I'm just going to draw a line here. And a little line here. Two. Right, let's calculate that then. 25 and 2. So the formula is we take the square of that chord line length, which was 25 mil, and we divide that by 8 times the sagittor, which is 16. So that's 25 squared divided by 16. Then we add to that the sagittor again, which is 2, divided by 2. So altogether we add 1. So basically we've got 25 squared over 16, all that plus 1. And that gives us a 40 millimeter radius. So I'm assuming, or I'm calculating, that's a 40 mil radius. So there's a few more technicalities left. We've calculated this radius, and we've said that's 40 by calculating the sagittor and the chord and putting them into a formula. The problem is that 40 mil radius is slightly different to the radius on the other side. And the reason behind that, if you look, there's a shape on this profile. There's a radius. So it actually gets wider on the outside than it is on the inside. So I need to calculate this new radius and try and figure out what this profile is going to be. And that was fairly easy, because I know the sagittor on this side is 16 millimeters. And when I measure the sagittor on this side, it's 19 millimeters. So the radius is 3 millimeters wider. So that would be a 43 millimeter radius, and the other side is a 40 mil radius. Now the exact shape of that profile is going to be a little bit challenging. That's not going to be easy to do. So I'm going to have to try and figure that out in the design myself. So probably the first thing to do before we actually try to make this out of aluminium is create a 3D printed version. Now, a few of you might say, why don't you just make a 3D printed version? But the ABS, the plastic that you use on 3D printing, would not be strong enough for this application. Anywho, let's get on and get those drawings in. Let's see what we can produce and how accurate it is. So I'm going to give that a go. Let's 3D print that and see if it fits. So I'm at home. I'm in that little work area where I was doing the rudders, and I need to finish those very soon. And I need to make a couple of gaskets for those hatches. And I'm going to be making 2 gaskets. So I've got 2 pieces of cardboard, templating cardboard. And the problem I have is I don't have any short self-tappers. Now, I'd really like to leave the hatches out until I've finished making the catch. Unfortunately, I've got to go away for a week working to get the money to pay for this rusty old tub. And in the meanwhile, the chances of it raining here in West Wales are quite high despite this beautiful weather. So I'm going to get the hatches fitted back on, dry fitted with this gasket that we're making, and then we can take them off again very, very shortly when we finish making the catch. Let's go and do that now. Looks to me like we're running out of luck with the weather. The Pembrokeshire Dangler is back. That's that big black cloud behind me. And it looks like it's about to rain, so I'm probably here in good time. So hatches temporarily on, all ready to go. I did mean to fetch some grease. I was going to impregnate the gaskets with grease, and I've left that at home in the garage, so we'll impregnate it with the ACF 50. Pretty good stuff.
Can't stop looking at you, you're like a firefly. Guide me out of the woods now. Oh, I think I lost my way, but got you to help me back. Tell me what I should do now. Every time I'm feeling down, you can make it go away. Your light is shining bright on me. Got no reason to be afraid. You're glowing in the dark. You're glowing in the dark. Glowing in the dark. I feel it in my heart. You're glowing in the dark. Glowing in the dark. Yeah, you're glowing in the dark.
Okay, so hatches are on temporarily. Just go and fasten those from down below, and then I'm going to get ready to go to work tomorrow. I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, why is he wearing that shirt? Well, that's because I'm at work. In fact, I've been at work all week. Well, I'm actually not at work right now. I'm in my hotel room. But sorry about this week's video. It's a bit of a short video because most of the footage came from the end of last week and over the weekend, because I've been here earning money to renovate that rusty old tub. But don't forget, if you did like the video, despite it being very short, please do give us a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, click the bell icon, leave us a comment, and I'll see you very, very soon in the next video. Bye for now.